The Walt Disney Company is the most important theme park operator in the world, with 6 major resorts around the globe. Each resort is different in not only the parks and attractions, but also the situation it's in. Disneyland in Anaheim doesn't have lots of room to expand, and have to deal with a lot of bureaucracy. Disney World has a lot of space, but it's currently in a pickle with the Florida governor. Hong Kong Disneyland is co-owned by the Hong Kong government, just like Shanghai with the Chinese government. Tokyo Disneyland isn't even owned by Disney, but the Japanese Oriental Land Company. And Disneyland Paris is also more complicated than it may seem. Fact is, the Parisian resort will have to build a 3rd park, but that statement in itself isn't all that simple and leads to many questions like why, when, where, and how. Questions I'll try my best to answer right now.
Oh boy!
Before I begin, if you enjoy my content and this video, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing as I upload weekly videos on theme parks from the past to the future. If you want to go the extra mile, consider becoming a channel member. You can find me over at Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, and in our Discord community where I'm most active. Links are all in the description. That said, let's dig in. To understand the complex situation that Disneyland Paris is, we first need to take a step back in time before the first shovels even hit the ground on what was but farmland in a town outside of Paris. I'll be as quick as possible, I swear. When Michael Eisner, Disney's CEO at the time, decided that Europe would be the next step in the company's global expansion, hundreds of locations were proposed. The prospects of a Disney theme park and the investment, jobs, and people it would bring delighted many countries. As time passed, it became clear that France and Spain would fight between themselves to win the mouse. Each country developed a proposal and offered terms. In Spain, a smaller resort with room to expand, consisting of the theme park and not much else, didn't win Michael over, as the French would propose a bigger plot of land with more to offer. The House of Mouse chose, spoiler alert, Paris for their biggest undertaking since Disney World. I've been over what went wrong since then and what the original massive resort would have looked like in this video, which I do recommend you check as it's one of my personal favorites. Either way, with the absolutely huge amount of land Disney wanted, came some terms as the need to continuously expand the resort with new offerings. Eisner knew what he wanted, and that was the huge 3-park resort, so Disney agreed with those terms. When the park opened in 1992, it became clear that the mouse went way too big and built way too much, so the expansions wouldn't be as easy as previously thought, because there wasn't much money coming in. After 10 years, Walt Disney Studios, a shadow of the much more impressive original plan that was Disney MGM Studios Europe, opened to the public as needed per the original agreement signed in the 1987 convention where Euro Disney SCA was created, the public-private company that would own the land and Disney's developments in the French capital. This agreement would be the base for everything to come after, from granting Disney a plot of land, which is about the 5th of the city of Paris, to the parks and the public investment on transportation and all kinds of infrastructure needed to support Europe's biggest resort. This now brings us to 2017, 30 years after the creation of Euro Disney SCA. This was a pivotal moment for the future of the resort, as Disney bought all of Euro Disney, making it a private-only company, and a referendum was made. Disney originally had until 2026 to build the 3rd gate, but was able to extend the deadline for the 3rd park's construction to 2036. But it's not as simple as that. If by March 24, 2036, Disney doesn't request the inclusion of a program corresponding to the creation of a 3rd major tourist attraction, the 3rd park, likely to attract millions of additional visitors each year, EPA will be able to market unused land on the site that's designated for said park. The amendment specifies that this deadline of 2036 may again be subject of an amendment until the date on which a threshold of at least 22 million annual visitors will be reached by the 2 existing parks. In such case, the creation of a 3rd major tourist attraction must be provided in a program signed until no later than March 2040. What this basically means is that Disney has until 2036 to deliver the third gate, unless the 22 million visitor mark hasn't been reached. If this is the case, they have until 2040 to do so. If Disney doesn't want to do any of this, they lose the very precious land designated for the third park. Now, that's a lot of information, and some questions are likely to have popped in your head. So let's examine the situation further. In 2022, Disneyland Park saw 9,930,000 guests pass through its gates. Walt Disney Studios saw 5,340,000 visitors pass through its gates. Together, that makes 15,270,000 total visitors in both Disneyland Paris theme parks. That's still very far from the threshold of 22 million. That would make Disney need to build that third gate. But the gap has been closing in the last few years. In 2016, both parks saw 30,370,000 visitors. Compared to 2022, that's a growth of 14% in 6 years. Not forgetting the COVID pandemic that had the parks more closed and open in both 2020 and 2021. If the growth continues at this pace, which shouldn't happen, but we'll get into that later, Disney should see 17.4 million visitors in 2028 and just under 20 million in 2034, 2 years before the referendum deadline ends. This is all very theoretical, of course. Disney was able to extend the deadline a lot the last time because of the promise of 2 billion euros to expand the Walt Disney Studios and many other works around the resort. So it's not impossible that if Disney didn't want to build a third park, they would be able to somehow change it once again. I said that I don't think we'll keep seeing the same growth over the next 6-year period as the last, and there are two main reasons why I believe it'll be bigger than that. First of all, COVID. With the pandemic, Disney parks shut down for very long periods of time, which most definitely slowed growth, but also the construction on new experiences that would have been completed by now. I'm talking about the studio's expansion and transformation with the lake and Frozen. This leads me to the next reason, that being, in those 6 years, we only saw the opening of one new attraction and a reskin of an already existing land with Web Adventure and Avengers Campus. The next 6 years, studios will double in size and bring several new experiences and a brand new, built from the ground up land, which will surely attract many new visitors. But that's not all, because, as we're probably about to officially hear in April, the rumored Lion King land will be the second land to open around the new studio's lake, possibly in 2027, just 3 years from now. These two major new additions will transform Walt Disney Studios into a much more attractive theme park than it currently is, making more people visit both parks and bringing even more people into the resort, slowly adding up to the 22 million mark. This year, 2024, will be decisive for the Disney parks around the world, but even more important for Disneyland Paris. First, the D23 Expo this August promises to be the biggest one ever, as Disney will be hosting the bigger presentations in the huge Honda Center with a capacity of 18,000 people. But that's not all. As Disneyland Paris is a part of Val d'Europe, there have been several phases since day one. The first phase focused on getting the theme park, hotels, village, and golf ready. And now, more than 30 years later, the fourth phase of Euro Disney SCA is now at its end. When it was announced and signed, this included the expansion of Walt Disney Studios Park, the village makeover, and many other possible expansions. Well, this summer, Epamarne and Disney will once again sit down and sign the Phase 5 of future developments for the region, which has been in development for the last year. The focus will be on new infrastructure, housing, transportation, and more for the next years. It could be that some of the infrastructure for the third park will be or is being discussed for this period of time. Even if it's not, other developments should be discussed, like new hotels or even the expansion of the train station that's been on hold since the park first opened. Going into the rumor realm for a little while, the Walt Disney Company announced that in the next 10 years, they plan on investing $60 billion in their theme parks, cruise line, and experiences. Outsiders has revealed that from those $60 billion, 10 to 15 would be allocated to Paris. making this the single largest investment period in the Parisien resort since its inception. There's currently many Imagineering projects being made and completed. We've covered some of these in the past videos. I'll leave a link down below if you want to watch them. But there's no way $10 to $15 billion could be spent on just expansions, new hotels and refurbishments. The 2 billion euros invested in 2018 were allocated to many projects, from the revitalization of Disney Village, the New York and Disneyland hotel transformations, the Vintage Campus, Frozen, the Third Land, and more. So the question now is, when? I wouldn't expect construction to start until after 2030, with an opening date of some years later. But that doesn't mean we won't be entertained until then. With all the projects now being developed, we're sure to have lots to talk about. I couldn't do this video without mentioning Disney's biggest worldwide competitor, Universal, that is now officially interested in coming back to Europe. Be that with Universal Studios Great Britain, the purchase of PortAventura World, or both. Universal is coming back, and Disney, while still having 30 years of a head start, hasn't really done a lot in the past 20 years. The promise of a Universal Park and resort in European soil must be a scary thought for Disneyland Paris, as they have been able to do the absolute minimum in the last 2 decades, as no competition gets close to their visitor numbers. But with Universal's IPs and spectacular new rides, Disney will surely have to get their engines running once again and faster than ever, so it becomes even more important to invest in the current parks, but also in a new park to get people to stay for longer and away from competition. The plot of land that's reserved for the third park sits between Sequoia Lodge and the circular road that goes around the entire resort. It's around 130 hectares of land ready for construction. That could fit the entirety of both current parks, excluding backstage areas, the Disneyland Hotel and Disney Village in its entirety, and still have 40 hectares left. Between this area and the hotels also sits a very big plot of land that should be used for the construction of new hotels, which could fit 3 Sequoia Lodges and its parking lots, just for scale. This proves that space is not a problem when it comes to the future of the Disneyland Paris resort. Transportation, though, could become something to worry about. How do you move that many people between the 2 major points of interest, the current parks and the new location? The Skyliner seems to be the winning method, but others, such as boats, could link the 2 areas if the already existing waterways are expanded into the site of the third gate. Of course, we can't say what the park will be about and what themes and IPs could be present, as the project, while reportedly started, is still in the very early stages of development and will change a lot until we hear the first official word about it. There has been one small development on the future park, though. Some of the dirt that was excavated for the Walt Disney Studios Park was used for the construction of a berm that goes along the site and road. This will in the future separate the outside world from the park, which is already something studios didn't have. Well, that said, what do you think about the future of Disneyland Paris with not only the several amazing rumored additions and expansions, but also the third park? What theme would you want to see be implemented this time? Let me know. And now, as always, thank you for watching, and that's a wrap.